Yes, apologies. 60 seconds late. Don't to keep you all waiting, but thank you for being here once again in the aftermath of the Montreal Canadiens. Doing something I didn't think they were going to do. And yeah, I was wrong again. I was wrong. It takes a man to admit when he is wrong. And today I feel like being super masculine. Thanks for taking the time. I apologize again for just being late. A reminder, the audio version of this podcast up every Friday at 10 o'clock. And that's why I was a little bit late. I was putting it all together, and then my dog came in, and I was a bit distracted. But yeah, I was wrong, man. I thought yesterday, if you joined me live on YouTube, I'm going to do this pretty much after every Montreal Canadiens game. I thought Uri Slafkovsky had earned himself a healthy scratch. I thought Uri Slafkovsky didn't need to play in Columbus. And of course, whenever I come out with some sort of air quote hot take, it generally falls flat on my face, as it did yesterday, as Slafkovsky gets the Canadiens on the board, his first goal in 15 games, his second of the season. And I thought the Canadiens were going to be in for a long night. We knew Cade Primeau was going to be the goaltender, but right away, Columbus hits a post. It beats Cade Primeau from kind of a long distance. I thought Primeau in the early blushes of that hockey game was fighting it, especially from long distance yesterday. And then Uri Slafkovsky, you know this guy's in his head like a lot of his teammates are, right? He's so in his head. Slafkovsky in the first period goes to lay out a big hit, and what happens? The guy from Columbus moves out of the way, and Slafkovsky face plants himself into the end boards. And my instant impression at that moment in time was, oh my gosh, the Canadiens are going to be in for a long night. And when you and I were doing this live on YouTube yesterday morning at this time, we were talking about, and some people even in the comments throwing out fearless predictions, Columbus 6, Montreal 1. I was making jokes about if the BJs are dropping 4, 5, 6 goals, I will be turning the audio off. I have zero tolerance for that ridiculous cannon in Columbus. I'd love to see the National Hockey League intervene and have some sort of mandate that outlaws, no grandfather clause, any cannons in your arena should no longer be allowed to be fired. But I'm waiting. And then again, the Montreal Canadiens, as it's been all season long, man, they make one mistake, boom, the opposition just pounces on them. Justin Barron on the first goal of the night from Mathieu Olivier. Mathieu Olivier, qui s'en vient d'où, là? Sais-tu où Mathieu Olivier vient? Vient pas au Lévis du Québec. Mathieu Olivier comes from Biloxi, Mississippi, and he scores his 7th. This guy's on 7 goals this season. And what happens? It's a direct result of Justin Barron forgetting kind of where he was. Positional awareness was lacking. He's looking at the puck. Next thing you know, big tough guy Mathieu Olivier is left alone in front of Cade Primeau, and boom, it's 1-0. And then Uri Slafkovsky answers back with his second of the year. And I think we all saw the same thing at that point. When Slafkovsky was bearing down, not opting and not deferring, and going for the goal, going for the shot, and gets rewarded. I mean, there's a couple of things we've known about Uri Slafkovsky while being guilty of being in his own head way too much. He has NHL size, and he has an NHL shot. And that NHL shot was a beauty from in close angle, tight angle, short side, if you don't mind, and scores a second of the year. And the Montreal Canadiens did what they did against Utah and play catch-up hockey. And it takes us into the second period, and we're not done with Uri Slafkovsky. And full credit to the coach and full credit to the player, because Martin St. Louis didn't give up on Uri Slafkovsky this week, kept the trust going, and then got him back out there on the ice. And what a defensive effort it was from Slafkovsky to spring Cole Caulfield on that break, and he goes 5-hole, and Cole Caulfield's on his 13th of the season. And Nick Suzuki scores the overtime winner, okay? That's exactly what the Montreal Canadiens are going to need more of. They're going to need their best players to be their best players. And last night, Cole Caulfield, as we saw against the Utah Hockey Club, Caulfield has looked like a man determined to score goals. I mean, is he doing it because his team is lacking offense? I certainly hope so. I hope the fact that Caulfield's name is likely to be on the outside looking in of the list of the American roster players for the upcoming Four Nations Cup in Montreal and Boston, that Caulfield might not even be on that team. Did that provide any sort of spark? I'm sure it did, but I want to believe, I think I have to believe for my own level of sanity that Caulfield wants to be of the upper echelon goal scorers in the National Hockey League. And the fact that his team, him, himself kind of dried up offensively. That was the motivation required to get this guy going. So he was one of the better players, along with Nick Suzuki, who, brings an interesting debate to the table. Nick Suzuki, in my opinion, is a number one center in the National Hockey League. Nick Suzuki, in my opinion, is a very good player. Is Nick Suzuki an elite level number one center? No, he's not an elite number one center. And my good friend Eric Macramella was on the TSN 690 morning show with me and Simon Salikas today. If you go to tsn690.ca or download the iHeartRadio app, listen to the 4th hour podcast of the morning show, and you'll listen to Eric bring up some interesting points when it comes to Nick Suzuki, right, versus the rest of the league. But I just want to give Nick Suzuki a little bit of love. Sometimes you don't know what you have until it's gone, and I think Nick Suzuki is a special player. Yes, he's not Nate McKinnon. He's obviously not Connor McDavid. He's not in the upper echelon of top line centers in the National Hockey League. But I do believe you can go deep. I do believe you can win. I do believe you can contend for a Stanley Cup if Nick Suzuki is in fact your number one center. Hell, they went to the Stanley Cup final in 2021 with Nick Suzuki there. And Phil Deneau obviously was an integral part of the depth of the players at that time in 2021. But Caulfield was there, Suzuki was there, and yes, the pillars of Carey Price and Shea Weber. Obviously, I lived that. I remember it. Okay, but I do believe if it's been done before and with the right ingredients, Nick Suzuki can be the man that can bring Montreal into the conversation of can they win the Stanley Cup. I believe they can contend for one with Nick Suzuki. But we're watching, some players on this team show you what some people brought to the comments section yesterday. And I got to be totally upfront with you. I was pouring over the comments of the live stream from yesterday, reacting to the Canadiens losing to Utah with a minuscule 13 shots on goal, their lowest shot output in 15 years. And a lot of the comments, go read them for yourself. Go on my page, go to the live section, find yesterday. And I think it's a picture I put up of Martin St. Louis and Juraj Slafkovsky. And the comments section was on fire yesterday. And I spent, some time responding. I tried to reply to all these comments. And some of the comments yesterday were, wow. Like, major mistake hiring MSL. Major mistake Jeff Molson bringing in Jeff Gorton and Ken Hughes. Like, I don't know what a lot of people expected. I'm not so sure what you thought this season was ultimately going to look like. And I guess, obviously, if you thought the Canadiens were going to be in the mix and you bought that line of thinking and they're not in the mix and they're still at the bottom of the standings with Chicago with a 3-point gap separating those two teams, then okay, you're in your feelings. You're disappointed because the team after 22 games, the first 25% of the season has come and gone, and they clearly haven't met your expectations. So you're in your feelings and you're feeling it, right? And I get it. So it dictates your opinion. But we're talking about one of the youngest teams in the NHL. That's in year 3 of a rebuild. And the heart of the rebuild, I hate to stress this point, but I'm going to again. The heart of the rebuild isn't on the team. So, I mean, pieces of it are clearly Juraj Slafkovsky is part of the team moving forward, right? But Ivan Demidov's not here yet. David Reinbacher isn't playing. And so that's kind of how I operate. And yes, I can question, I can be critical, and I try to be as balanced as I can as I was yesterday. I was disappointed in what I thought Martin St. Louis decided to do and went very conservative and went very safe. And I don't believe the Montreal Canadiens are in the space where they should be conservative and should be safe. I want them to be daring. I want them to be unconventional. I want them to try other things. So that's kind of how I criticize when I don't like what I see or decisions I don't necessarily agree with. And I just, I opened today's episode by admitting how wrong I was. If it were my call, I would have benched Juraj Slafkovsky yesterday. And of course, the guy goes out and scores a goal and plays a much more complete game. And to me, one of the strong takeaways from the Canadiens getting by Columbus, and let's put this win in context for a second. When Montreal beat Columbus on a Saturday in mid-November, 5-1, the Canadiens don't flatten anybody. But on that night, they took it to Columbus. The following game, they shut out Edmonton, right? 3-0. Columbus, after they got flattened by the Canadiens, went on a run. They weren't a get-right game for a week. They had won 3 consecutive games, and more importantly, they had scored a combined 17 goals over those 3 wins, right? So logically, if you sort through it, right, Canadians get embarrassed by Vegas, follow that up with a home game against Utah, put up their lowest shot output in 15 years with 13, somehow leave the game with a point, go on the road the next night and play at a pretty hot and pretty offensively minded Columbus team, certainly in their last 3 games. And what do the Canadians do? They play disciplined. They play together. They roll 4 lines. They stay out of the penalty box. And arguably the best players on the Montreal Canadiens were their best players. Nick Suzuki, overtime winner. Cole Caulfield, 13th of the season. Juraj Slafkovsky gets his second and his first in 15 games. And the other takeaway in the aftermath of Montreal winning this hockey game, and I'm going to be, I admit I will be dramatic. I think Cade Primeau saved his Montreal Canadiens career last night. I do. Because let's walk through it. He comes into relief of Sam Montembeault Saturday in Vegas. He leaves with what, a .650 save percentage. Like, it's a horror show. You look at Cade Primeau's stats, forget the eye test, forget the analytics. Just work off the old traditional stats. It's been a bleeping nightmare for Cade Primeau. Like, no trust, no confidence. You make a mistake, as we saw last night, right? There were 3 mistakes in that hockey game that were obvious to me. Justin Barron, first goal, Mathieu Olivier. Taking a penalty at the end of the period where Columbus starts, bad coverage. And then Lane Hutson holding on to the puck for way too long. And as a direct result, puts the Montreal Canadiens in trouble. Like, Lane Hutson is not a perfect player. He's a fun player, but not a perfect player. And so when you look at all of that and how Primeau has been playing, and then Sam Montembeault answers the bell. Sam Montembeault against Utah, I thought was top. Sam Montembeault, without that level of goaltending, the Canadiens don't get a point against the hockey club. So Sam Montembeault answered his own bad game with a strong game. What was Cade Primeau going to do? And that to me was so impressive, because Cade Primeau, like anybody else, is a human being. And when he gets the tap on the shoulder that, Prime, it's your net tonight. I mean, don't tell me that he's not thinking about the pressure. Don't tell me he's not thinking about, okay, go through your motions, go through your technique, go through your routine, hit all your checkpoints, and move on. And so Cade Primeau, who looked a little shaky, a little jittery, as I mentioned, hit the shots from kind of longish distance. He wasn't very tight on early post from Columbus last night. But as the game went on, he calmed down. His game grew. And the Canadiens got that W. And I think Cade Primeau saved his Montreal Canadiens career, because, you can play the what-if game. What if the Canadiens lose in regulation? What if 4 or 5 go by Cade Primeau? What if, as one commenter pointed out to me, Canadiens are going to lose in Columbus 6-1? Okay, what if they did lose 6-1? I don't know in what world Cade Primeau gets another start. You've got Jakub Dobesh. You've got Connor Hughes and Laval. They're looking good and playing well. Granted, the Laval Rocket did lose a hockey game yesterday, but there is good news there. Raphael Harvey-Pinard scored, and Logan Mailloux also scored in that game. And so that's what I mean about Cade Primeau. That was a huge game for him personally, and I wonder about, the regime of Gorton, Hughes, and even Martin St. Louis. Do they look at Cade Primeau and say, okay, he kind of saved his season, or okay, maybe he's back on track. They're starting to put it together. So yeah, I'm being dramatic. It's fine. That's how I felt going into the game. I mean, the stakes are very significant. We could talk about the lack of competitiveness in the standings. Granted, that's a gimme putt. But we're talking about one of the youngest teams in hockey that's trying to rebuild and trying to find their way. So let's calm down for a minute. Let's think this through. Juraj Slafkovsky just got an extension. Martin St. Louis just got an extension. He's not getting fired. And I don't think he should get fired. I think we're allowed to be critical and expect mistakes to happen. It's us watching out for the repetitiveness of those mistakes. Do you, as moms say, did you learn from that? Are you better because you made that mistake and now you learn from it, and you're probably not going to make that mistake again? That's what at least I pay attention to. And so when we look at the stakes of this season, I think they're enormous. Cade Primeau needs to show that he can be trusted, that he can shoulder the load of a busy NHL schedule. And I don't want to see him play well in late February and early March around the trade deadline, because I've seen garbage time hockey and good performances in garbage time. I've seen that before, and you're not going to fool me again with that. So I want to see Cade Primeau with a little pressure, where the team is kind of expecting a result of some kind, and he needs to step up and be good. Otherwise, he's just not going to be here. And guess what? I think if the Canadiens put Cade Primeau on waivers, I don't think he clears them. I mean, hell, look what's going on in Colorado. Alexander Georgiev is throwing tantrums on an almost nightly basis. Hell, Colorado just had an 8-burger dropped on them the other night. So they've got massive goaltending issues in Colorado. And I don't think, again, to repeat myself, if Primeau goes on waivers, somebody is going to scoop him up. So 21 saves, pressure win, the future of Cade Primeau, it's on him. At the NHL level, it's like, remember when we all left high school and we went to college and we were all warned, teachers really don't take attendance. You either go to macroeconomics or you don't go to macroeconomics, and the class gets taught and they don't care if you're there or not. Welcome to the NHL, Cade Primeau. Perform, answer the bell, keep your job. Don't do those things, you don't get to keep your job. I'm noticing here, I think I have some glitches with my live chat. I've noticed chats coming in, and then immediately it says retracted. I've seen a bunch come in, and then they get deleted. I don't see them on the screen. I watched yesterday's live stream. As comments were coming in, I was reacting to the comments, answering them live as I see them on my screen, but they don't pop up on the stream as I watch myself again. So I apologize if you don't see them. I see them. Rick Springhetti, the market has a bad habit of assessing the team according to the last game they played. You have to assess by 20 game blocks. This is how you avoid mistakes by emotion. I agree. Emotion really, you try to get out of your feelings sometimes. I had a guy, this guy on my In the Car with Star Facebook page. I'll tell you a quick anecdote. I posted, I didn't think the Canadiens played poorly against Utah. I didn't think they were, that bad, right? Despite the low shot total, right? They still got a point. They fought. And this guy, Barry, his reply was, the Canadiens had 14 shots on goal and you thought they played well. How are you on the radio, right? And I know myself. I would have reacted a lot differently in my 20s. Now I'm in my late 40s, 46 years old, and I'm sitting and I'm reading this on my phone. I'm like, boy, oh boy, Barry is upset. Barry is upset. He's upset his favorite hockey team is crap. He thought they were going to be better, and Barry is up in his feelings and coming after, how am I on the radio? Right? But this is what happens. People are in their feelings, and their feelings dictate their emotions, and this is where we are. So that, for me, last night, that was an important win. And it has nothing to do with how many points they have after how many games they played. So for all the commentators who don't like MSL, don't think he's a coach, don't like Gorton, don't like Hughes, what did that win tell you yesterday? Did it tell you that these guys have pride? Did it tell you that they want to play for Martin St. Louis? Did it tell you how much they hate losing? Did it tell you that they want to be good and they don't like being at the bottom of the NHL standings with the Blackhawks? That's what it told me. And the evidence and the proof is Montreal needs their best players to stand up and be their better players if they have any chance whatsoever of leaving a game with a point. And ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we would have a Merry Christmas. And if the Montreal Canadiens held on to that lead against Utah, we're talking about a team that has won 4 of their last 5 games. But welcome to life in the National Hockey League. Hell, ask the Dallas Stars. Dallas went to play the worst team in hockey, Chicago. They're talking about putting Connor Bedard on the wing in Chicago because it is a bad team. And Connor Bedard, by the way, might not even make Team Canada for the Four Nations Cup, okay? So when you think it's bad, it's worse somewhere else. And Dallas, one of the best teams in hockey, lost 6-2 to Chicago. So it happens all over the place. And when we talk about the best players on the Canadiens needing to be the best players on the Canadiens, Lane Hudson and Caden Gooley are fantastic. Fantastic. freaking tastic. Caden Gooley is a juggernaut. Caden Gooley is a stud. The Montreal Canadiens are lucky to have a guy like Caden Gooley. He is so good. Every time I watch this guy, I am like, wow, Montreal has Caden Gooley. This guy is a pillar. This guy is fundamentally strong. He is not starstruck. I find Caden Gooley's game elevates based on the caliber of the opposition. And look at the numbers. Look at the numbers that these two guys gobbled up yesterday. I mean, they played so much for Martin St. Louis compared to Jaden Struble, who I think, my friends, is living a real-life audition. Jaden Struble, more bad than good. Danforth danced him yesterday. And I know we're talking about a defenseman who was in for Mike Matheson playing spot duty, scored a goal against Utah, right? But I'm not so sure Jaden Struble has a permanent place with the Montreal Canadiens. I wouldn't be surprised if Jaden Struble is one of those guys that Ken Hughes might move in terms of looking at trying to bring, I don't know if another reclamation project is up the sleeve of Ken Hughes. I'm not a mind reader. He plays his cards very close to the vest, so I'm not sure there. But I do believe right now, Jaden Struble is auditioning, and I'm not so sure he's passing the audition. I think there was a little bit more bad than good to his game. He did have a big hit, but defensively, sometimes it can be an adventure. And you're watching Logan Mailloux do some heavy lifting in Laval, scored a goal for the Rocket in a loss on Wednesday night. So this is what I'm talking about. Auditioning with the team in year 3, really, of a rebuild and trying to figure out the pieces on the chessboard and how they can ultimately get to checkmate, get out of this goddamn rebuild and get into an area of competition and competitiveness that I think we're all waiting for. And while I'm on the subject of defense, I also want to that's an interesting point. Costa brought this up. See, I can't even I don't even know what to do with these. I wish I could put these chats. I'm getting so many comments. I wish I could put them on the screen, but this P brain over here can't figure it out. Struble is one of those guys. Like, there are so many players on the Canadiens that are trying to do everything, and we're watching guys thinking and not keeping up to the pace because they're overthinking. And on that front, I want to talk about Arbor Xhekaj. I didn't believe the Montreal Canadiens had what I think now is a different player and a different version of the Arbor Xhekaj we all saw, right? The Wi-Fi into the sheriff, into beating people up on the ice, becoming a fan favorite, right? Arbor Xhekaj's game is calmed the bleep down, and that is the best thing possible for Arbor Xhekaj. Arbor Xhekaj can be such a menace, can be such an asset for the Montreal Canadiens. And it's a compliment, really, that I'm paying to the coaching staff, to Martin St. Louis, to Trevor Letowski, to skills coach Adam Nicholas, putting in the work, Xhekaj putting in the work and getting better. You notice how quiet he is. You notice he doesn't run around. You notice how good he is at minimizing zone entries. Standing tall, not backing down, not running around looking at things, waiting for action to come to him. And with that physicality, that frame, 6'4", yes, that's what Montreal needs. Let's not forget the 2021 season, my friends. Let's not forget that year. They had great depth down the middle in Phil Deneau, who was a pain in the ass to Austin Matthews, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield with timely goal scoring, unbelievable goaltending, unbelievable defense, Shea Weber, Carey Price, and of the Montreal Canadiens, as I mentioned earlier today, I believe the Canadiens can contend if Nick Suzuki remains their number one center. I believe it. I saw it in 2021. I think as his game matures, as he matures, I think he's only going to get better. He's going to age like a fine wine. And we saw in 2021, with great goaltending, with aggressive defense, Montreal was able to do some significant damage. Beat the Leafs, sweep the Jets, beat Vegas in 6, and then the reality of the juggernaut Lightning in 5 games, right? Your Western Conference champion Montreal Canadiens. But the point I'm making is that if the goaltending can find stable ground, whoever brings stability, whether it's a Sam Montembeault or a Jacob Fowler or somebody in between, a Dobesh or a Hughes, I don't know. The goaltending position is so complicated, so unpredictable. I have no time to even think I know what I'm talking about. But if the goaltending can be stable and the Montreal Canadiens defense grows into the system they believe it will grow into, Arbor Xhekaj is going to be such an asset for this team when they're ready to level up and fight for a division, fight for an Eastern Conference, and maybe fight for a Stanley Cup. They could do it. And Arbor Xhekaj can be a part of that. And remember, in his rookie season, right? He was able to score some offense. The offense is there. It's there somewhere, but he's working on other things with the coaches. And they're working on making him a smarter, calmer, more precise player when it's time to execute. So that's kind of what I saw from Xhekaj and Struble. Two defensemen that were here. I think Struble's going that way. Xhekaj keeps going this way. Sammy, what's up, brother? Your thoughts on Newhook? I know it's early, but honestly, I don't like his game. He was so hyped by the media a bit too much. So here's the thing with Alex Newhook, right? And maybe, Sammy, you touch on a little bit of truth there because, yes, I am in the media. I am on the TSN 690 morning show every day with Connor McKenna from 6 to 10 a.m. And, I'm a fan of the strategy of reclamation projects, of trying to identify other high ceiling players that haven't hit the ceiling yet. And for a variety of reasons, the team that they're with have prevented them from getting to those heights. And you try to identify those guys and try to get them away, right? Like it's how, when the Canadiens got Emil Heineman, they gave up Tyler Toffoli to get him. And look who Emil Heineman has turned into. Wow. Not only is he big, smart, positionally sound, and he has such a heavy shot. Next time Emil Heineman has the puck and he misses the net, pay attention. Rewind your Bell 5. Rewind it. When he misses the net, listen to the sound the puck makes when it hits the boards. Oh my gosh. But they got him from Calgary in the Tyler Toffoli deal, right? So it's identifying these players, these sleeper agents on other teams, and trying to poach those guys. And when Alex Newhook arrived here, I'm going to remember what he said for a while because I'm a big attitude guy. You know what I mean? If you're going to talk strong, I want to see you play strong, and it makes me be a fan of yours, like the people that can talk the talk, right? And Alex Newhook, when he was acquired by the Canadiens, he was like, listen, I'm a much better player. I was underutilized in Colorado, playing behind some really good players. I felt like I could have given more, but I was buried on the depth chart. And I was like, excellent, sold. I love what you're saying. Now, that's one half of the equation. The other half is go out and do it, arguably the much harder part. And Sammy, he hasn't. Full stop. What does Alex Newhook do well? He skates fast guy. But yeah, I think it's fair to say it's been underwhelming, clearly. Like the goals, no. Has he got 5? 5 goals and no assists. Like, yes, it's been underwhelming. And there have been opportunities. It's not like he's a buried depth chart player and has to work his way up. No. Came here with a top 6 role, and like he plays either side of the wing, he plays down the middle. So I'm not ready to carve a lot of guys up for the simple fact that there hasn't been a lot of stability. There's been a lot of blendering. Emil Heineman, 3 weeks ago was on the top line, and then a week ago he was a bottom 6 player. And now he's found a little bit more stability playing with Joshua, who I think will be the easy guy that comes out of the lineup when Patrick Laine is ready to come back in. I really do believe that. Because, not that I agree with it. As I mentioned yesterday, I think the Montreal Canadiens are in a spot where they can be experimental, and Joshua Roy playing 11 minutes is whatever. I'm underwhelmed. And it's not him. It's just the role he's been tasked of filling. Like, it's 11 minutes of a guy who's got 8 goals in 17 AHL games this season. I wanted to see if he could splash the pot. Christ, the Canadiens need offense. They need more goals. So, but that's the coach's decision. I didn't like it. I didn't like it against Utah. I didn't like it last night, but that's the coach's decision, and he squeezed out a W, picked up 2 points over Columbus and a red hot BJ's team. They'd won 3 in a row and scored 17 goals. Paul Millette, they surprised a bunch of us. Absolutely. Just goes to show you hockey's just a ridiculous game. And while they figure out the auditions of a Justin Barron, while they figure out the auditions of a Struble and a Xhekaj, they're figuring out ultimately where Kirby Dach goes. And full credit. I didn't think there were a lot of passengers in that hockey game yesterday, so I give the team some props. I give them some major props. I didn't think they were going to win that game. And I give the coach props for not bailing, for not panicking, and that's a big difference between fans like you and me and people whose job it is to put out a competitive lineup and try to stay out of your feelings a lot of the time. And maybe you need to sleep on it, and then when you wake up with a new sense of what the lineup should look like, and saying, you know what, let me try it one more time. And so, yeah, I respect the decision. I do, because I don't think it's easy. I don't think it's easy. The I think the easy choice maybe would be to react strongly in a message sending kind of way. And I think a lineup card like last night and the way the team performed, where they were able to roll four lines throughout the night. They got better goaltending as the game grew older, and Cade Primeau had a very strong bounce back game. And I don't think there was a play. Maybe Juraj Slafkovsky needed it more, but I don't think so. I think Cade Primeau needed that game more than anybody else on the ice last night for Montreal. And they said, we're going to do this. We're going to put Primeau in net. Slafkovsky's going to get back out there. Kirby Dach to get back out there. And we're going to roll with this. And now it seems, by the way, as I brought up Patrik Laine's name, it doesn't appear likely that he's going to play this weekend. So he traveled with the team and to be around them, obviously, to practice with them, take some line rushes. But as I mentioned the other day, it's going to be Patrik Laine's call. He's ultimately going to get the medical clearance, but it's going to be Patrik Laine putting his hand up and saying, yes, I am ready to go. When he does that, he will play. And it doesn't appear that he's going to play this weekend. He's going to skate. The Canadiens play at MSG Saturday at 1. Then they play at Boston Sunday afternoon at 3. And that, my friends, is the Bruins Centennial game. Boston Bruins jersey is one of the nicest in the National Hockey League. And I don't know which goaltender gets to start. And I do believe Cade Primeau earned another start in one of those two games. And I don't believe that Patrik Laine is going to suit up. So maybe my prediction with Gallo, where I said the first or second week of December, will be the winning prediction, and I will make sure to remind Gallo of that simple fact. Steph Howard, good morning. I don't think Cade Primeau can play every 3 games. Seems every 5 games he could do a start and be good. I would like another shot at Trevor Zegras. Oh, boy. Remember when that guy's name was front of mind for everybody? But it's a little bit of a gong show. In Anaheim, one of the more dysfunctional teams in the National Hockey League. And I don't think the Canadiens should be in on the Trevor Zegras of business, personally. Rick Spaghetti, got to give some love to Emil Heineman, quietly on pace to hit the 20-goal mark this season as a rookie. And on top of that, he plays a solid physical game with some decent defense. Absolutely. You tell me if this is wrong. Emil Heineman is Arturi Lehkonen with more physicality. Look this up. Yeah, look it up. I don't have an assistant, and I'm talking to you, so I don't have the time to do this. There isn't a rookie in the NHL today that has more body checks than Emil Heineman. The most physical rookie in the National Hockey League, on pace for 20 goals. And he looks good, man. I like him. I like Emil Heineman. Thank you, Rick, for the comment. Baron is shaky, says Paul. Absolutely. He was shaky. But that's the thing, though. These guys know. They know that their future with the Montreal Canadiens is not guaranteed. Justin Barron, Arbor Jackeye, Jaden Struble. So it's show me time. They've rounded the quarter pole now. They've got big games this weekend. Big games need big moments. And which big player is going to step up and provide a big moment and thrive under the pressure of a big challenge against the New York Rangers, who are reeling. The Rangers are reeling. They've lost 4 in a row. They play against Philadelphia Friday afternoon at 1, and then they host the Canadiens Saturday night. I would go back to San Montebo Saturday afternoon, against the Rangers, and I would throw Primeau against Boston Sunday afternoon. That's personally how I would operate, but as we found out yesterday, boy, I get some things wrong that there is no doubt. So good on the Montreal Canadiens, man. They answered the critics, they answered the haters, and they proved to themselves that they can play a good brand of hockey and they can roll 4 lines, and they can get into a rhythm, they can get into a groove, but they need their better players to play like their best players a lot of the time if they have a competitive shot. Nick Suzuki, overtime winner. Cole Caulfield, 13th of the season. And Uri Slafkovsky, finally, the young man gets his second goal of the season and his first in 15 games. And Montreal is on to face the Rangers on Saturday. And I am on to putting together a bit of video that I did with Mitch Gallo, where Gallo drops a huge prediction as it relates to Ivan Demidov. And I will show you that prediction tomorrow on my YouTube channel when I release some new content for you at, what do you guys want, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning? And don't forget, every Friday, the full audio version of my podcast comes out on all your favorite and preferred streaming, iHeart, Apple, Spotify, yada, yada, yada. And hey, listen, I got an email from my podcast provider, where I upload my audio. And I got an email because they track my metrics, I guess, And I got this email the other day. It said, "Hey, congratulations. You are you are the 7th most listened to hockey podcast in Italy." Whoa! Come vai? Vieni mangiare. Tutto è pronto. Adesso. Ciao, ragazzo. So, hey, that's not nothing. Top 7 hockey podcast in Italy? Listen, there might only be 7 podcasts in the country of Italy that they know about that talks hockey. But if I'm 7 out of 7, hey, I'll take it. Ciao, ragazzo. Grazie mille. So that was fun. But I don't know. It read like a spam email, but because my ego is so sensitive and so large, I chose to believe it because it said nice things about me. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your comments today. 37 minutes of a live YouTube recap of the Montreal Canadiens handling their business, beating the BJs again. When they beaten Columbus, 6, 7 times in a row? Good on Montreal, man. Now let's see what the next stage is. Huge games against the Rangers and the Bruins. I will be here with you when those games are over. I'm thinking about actually doing. I haven't done this in a minute. When I started my broadcasting career, when I left CJAD and went to Team 990 in 2001, I did the Canadiens postgame show, and I haven't done a postgame show since. I love doing the postgame show I did that for like 2 or 3 seasons. After every game, we take calls, and I'm thinking about doing like a kind of a YouTube postgame show after Saturday and after Sunday's games. So stay tuned for that. I'll make sure I'll give you some warning. Otherwise, whether it's after the game or shortly thereafter, I will be here Saturday and Sunday after the Montreal Canadiens play the Rangers and Bruins. So happy Thanksgiving to my American friends. Eat well, stay safe, and enjoy all the football today. It's 11:40 as I wrap this up on Thursday. And I'm going to go have some lunch, and I'm going to go watch my Chicago Bears get obliterated by the Detroit Lions. They play at 12:30 this afternoon. So thanks. Keep the comments coming. I'll do my best all afternoon today to respond to a bunch of them. And get ready. We'll be back in the aftermath. Make sure you keep it locked. Keep it subscribed to In the Car with Star on YouTube. We've got a new video with Mitch Gallo tomorrow on the great Ivan Demidov. And this isn't clickbait. Mitch Gallo drops a mammoth MFR prediction. A mammoth prediction on Ivan Demidov. So I want you to watch the video because I think you'll enjoy it. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a great Thursday. Let's move into the weekend, and I'll see you back here. Watch my video tomorrow on Demidov, and we'll be back here Saturday and Sunday to react to the Canadiens' weekend games.